Hi there everybody, I hope you're doing very well today. I recently came across a little indie game on itch.io called Pokémon Overlord. Created by developer Jab Lau, the game is a cross between Pokémon and a game I'd never heard of called Unicorn Overlord, which came out in 2024. I fell in love with this game recently, and the more I got into it, the more I wanted to learn about it, but I was having trouble finding useful info about the game online, so you know what? Be the change you want to see in the world. I decided to make this video for anyone else who's just getting into the game and doesn't know much about it. I'll discuss the basics, how battling works, type matchups, basically everything that can help you get into the game as easily as possible. Here's our main menu. There are currently 4 game modes available to be played, but for now we'll just talk about standard mode. At the start of a standard run, you'll be prompted by Professor Oak to pick your starting deck of 2 Pokemon, each themed around different Pokemon games. The dev tried to make every Pokemon useful in some way, so I say just pick your favorites and try to make it work. I'll go with my favorite generation and pick Pokemon Black. This is the hotel where the Pokemon Overlord tournament takes place, occupied by various trainers from the first 6 generations of Pokemon. To start, you talk to people. Some trainers will just give you advice, which can be pretty useful while learning the game, but other trainers will ask you to battle. In general, the deeper you go into the hotel, the tougher the trainers get, so to start off, we'll battle some of the trainers over here in the lobby area. This is our pre-battle screen, where you can view your opponent's team and select which of your own Pokemon to place on the field. Each player can field up to 3 Pokemon at a time. We currently only have 2, so we don't have much of a choice there, but let's take a look at each Pokemon's stats and info and explain what they mean. Let's start with my boy, a Pignite. In the top left, you'll see the Pokemon's type or color, with Pignite being red. We'll go over type effectiveness stuff later. Over here, we can see the Pokemon's level and a shape indicating their rarity. A circle means that Pignite is common. We'll go over the effects of rarity later as well. On the left, we can also see the level at which this Pokemon will evolve, so once it reaches level 6, Pignite will evolve into Emboar. These are your Pokemon's stats. HP indicates how much damage they can withstand before being knocked out. Attack indicates how much damage their moves deal. Speed indicates when they will move in battle. These red squares are the Pokemon's action points, or AP for short. Every move used by a Pokemon will cost AP, somewhere from 1 to 5. The blue squares are the Pokemon's power points, or PP for short. Every time a Pokemon's ability is activated in battle, it will cost PP, also from 1 to 5. Each Pokemon can go into battle with 2 moves and 1 ability, but each move and ability slot will only have 2 options to choose from. So for example, Pignite can choose between the moves Flame Charge and Smog, and he can also choose between Arm Thrust and Fire Punch. For its ability, it can either pick Reckless or Blaze. When you've picked what you like, start the battle. Now right off the bat, we'll see 3 things happen. Firstly, Pignite's ability Reckless activates, but also both of the opponent's Pokemon will attack. This is because both of their speed stats are higher than both of my Pokemon's speed stats. All Pokemon move in order of their speed stats. So now it's Pignite's turn to move, and we have a couple of options. We can use either one of our 2 moves, or we can press X to wait. Waiting skips this Pokemon's turn for now, and moves on to the next Pokemon's turn. For educational purposes, let's go ahead and wait. Now it's Pawniard's turn, and we have the same options, but you can't wait when you're the last Pokemon to move in a turn. Pawniard can either use the 1-cost Scratch or the 2-cost Night Slash, and this seems like a good time to talk about types and type effectiveness. In Pokemon Overlord, there are 6 different types that make up every Pokemon and move. When outside of battle, if we go into our party menu, we can see what they look like and how they work right down here. In-game, the types are all referred to by their color, so that's how I'll refer to them as well. The arrows on the chart indicate which types are effective against which other types. For example, red Pokemon are weak to blue Pokemon. That means if a blue move is used against a red Pokemon, the move will deal 1.3 times the damage that it normally would. If we follow the arrow backwards, they indicate which types are not very effective against other types. So if a green move is used against a red Pokemon, the move will deal 0.7 times the damage that it normally would. Remember at the start of this battle when Rattata and Zigzagoon both attacked? Notice that they both attacked Pignite. That's because the moves they used were white. If we check out our chart, white moves are not very effective against yellow Pokemon. So if they would have attacked our Poniard, the attacks would have done less damage. Now let's use our type chart to work out what our Pokemon should do. Since Scratch is a yellow move, it's super effective against both of our opponent's white Pokemon, so we'll Scratch Zigzagoon. Since Poniard has now finished its turn, the turn order returns to any other Pokemon that decided to wait, like our Pignite. Pignite can either use Flame Charge or Arm Thrust. Using what we just learned about type effectiveness, we know that Arm Thrust will be super effective against either of the opponent's Pokemon. But before we select it, note that Arm Thrust is a 3-cost move, and Pignite only has 3 AP to work with, so this will be Pignite's last move of the game. We'll finish off Zigzagoon, who actually still had 1 AP left. If we hadn't knocked out Zigzagoon that turn, he would have been able to attack us again on this coming turn. But now it's 2v1 and there's not much that Rattata can do against our Poniard. Now that was literally the simplest battle in the entire game, so that might not have seemed very exciting, but battles get more and more complex and difficult as the game progresses. Youngster Joey pays us for our victory and sends us on our way, so let's try another simple battle, and this time we'll discuss placement. In our pre-battle screen, we can place our Pokemon in 6 slots on the field. 3 slots in the front row, and 3 slots in the back row. Pokemon placed in the front row are susceptible to all attacks from other Pokemon. Pokemon in the back row, however, cannot be targeted by most moves. Once all Pokemon in the front row have been defeated, Pokemon in the back row can be targeted as usual. And one last thing, Pokemon placed in the back row have their speed stat reduced by 30%, so you're sacrificing speed for protection. Knowing this info, along with our type effectiveness chart, we can prepare ahead of time for our opponent's team. As you can see, they have entirely white Pokemon, and as we know, white moves are not very effective against yellow Pokemon. We can exploit this by putting our yellow Poniard in the front row and our Pignite in the back row. This means that the enemy will be forced to attack Poniard first, dealing less damage than they would have if they could attack Pignite. So once again, we start the battle with Pignite's Reckless ability activating. First up to attack is the opponent's Skitty, who uses Fury Swipes against our Poniard and does minimal damage. Skitty also activated Poniard's Iron Barbs ability, taking damage in the process. We'll use Poniard to attack Jigglypuff, the only Pokemon we can target. Jigglypuff hits right back, activates Poniard's Iron Barbs again, and then activates its own ability, Sing, which removes 1 AP from Poniard. Pignite will use Arm Thrust to finish off Jigglypuff, and Poniard will make the last move with a Scratch against Skitty. And now's a good time to talk about how battles are actually won. A battle ends when all Pokemon on the field have either fainted or run out of AP. When that happens, the winner is decided by which team has a larger percentage of their entire team's HP remaining. Just stick with me here. So as you can see here, the opponent's team finished with 21%. That means they depleted 21% of my team's total health, while our 87% means that we depleted 87% of the other team's total health. It's an interesting way to decide the winner, because this makes it possible to knock out 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, lose none of your own, and still lose. Those are all the basics of battling in Pokemon Overlord. Now trust me, things can get a lot deeper than that in this game. 3v3, moves that hit multiple Pokemon, but as long as you read what each move and ability does, you'll be okay. Now let's talk about getting new Pokemon. I mean, I love Pignite and Poniard, but it'd be nice to get a new face in here. The simplest way to get a new Pokemon is to check the card shop. At any time, the shop will have 6 visible Pokemon for sale, but if you're not liking your options, you can spend 40 Pokédollars to buy a random Pokemon of any of the 6 types. Let's go ahead and pull a random green Pokemon to complement our Pignite. And would you look at that, we got a...
Fracture.
But if you don't like spending money, don't despair, some kind trainers along the way might just give you some Pokemon free of charge. Now let's talk about making our Pokemon stronger at the Vitamin Shop. Here we can buy 6 different items. Rare candies increase your Pokemon's level by 1. HP up, attack up, and speed up increase your Pokemon's respective stats, while AP up and PP up increase your Pokemon's AP and PP. The effectiveness of these vitamins are dependent on the rarity of your Pokemon. There are 5 levels of rarity in Pokemon Overlord, which I'll be calling Common, Uncommon, Rare, Golden, and Rainbow. Rare candies work the same regardless of rarity. HP up, attack up, and speed up increase their stats by 10 for common Pokémon, 7 for uncommon Pokémon, 5 for rare, 3 for golden, and just 1 for rainbow. So weaker Pokémon tend to benefit a lot more from stat boosting vitamins. AP up and PP up increase their stats by 1 for any Pokémon uncommon or rarer, but for common Pokémon, the increase is boosted to 2. Now, as we said before, we've been playing in standard mode, so what exactly is the goal? Well, whenever you finish 6 battles against any 6 trainers, win or lose, you move on to the next stage of the tournament. First, quarterfinals, then semifinals, all culminating in the finals against a champion. If you beat the champion, you win. Now, there are a lot of other secrets and mysteries in the game besides that, but we'll talk about that a different day. There are 2 ways to lose a run of Pokémon Overlord, either by losing to the champion or by running out of HP. Your character loses HP each time you lose a battle. If you lose 5 battles, game over. Lastly, let's discuss the differences between the different game modes available to us. League Challenge is a variation on standard mode where you play as one of 83 different notable trainers from the Pokémon universe, from gym leaders to champions to villains to whatever. What makes this mode a little tougher is that you have to use a restricted pool of Pokémon that thematically fit with your character. So if you're choosing to play as a Fire-type gym leader, they're probably going to have a lot of red Pokémon to choose from. Due to this restriction, you also never get gifted random Pokémon from trainers, meaning you need to use your hard-earned Pokédollars to purchase your own Pokémon no matter what. Battle Frontier mode is for those who don't want to do all the walking around. In this mode, you just pick your 2 Pokémon and fight 30 straight battles with access to the card and vitamin shops at all times. There's one more hidden game mode to unlock, but we'll discuss that on a different day. For now, that's about all I've got. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope I did a decent job of explaining the rules of this game, and I hope you check this game out for yourself because I've been loving it. I'll have the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.